and welcome to From Agenda to Action, a City of Ames podcast to help residents better understand decisions being made at Ames City Council meetings. I'm Susan Gwiasda with City Communications and Outreach, and today we'll go over meeting highlights and items discussed at the May 12th Ames City Council meeting. To help me explain the meeting, I'm joined today by Ames Mayor John Haila. So, Mayor, we had a good meeting on May 12th where we got through a lot of business. As we look through the agenda, right at the beginning, we welcomed a new ex-officio.
We did. The council unanimously approved the appointment of Trey Anderson as the next student government ex-officio on council.
Yeah, and what does the ex-officio do quickly? I know you've talked about it before.
Yes, good question. The ex-officio represents the student body's interests on council. It is a non-voting position. But we look to the ex-officio to bring the students' perspective relative to city business. For example, they've provided great input, for example, regarding apartment housing developments or even talking about Cyclone Welcome Weekend and the regulations regarding that, parking. So it's a real privilege to have someone represent the student government at the dais and serve as the ex-officio. And we were really thrilled to welcome Trey because he's passionate. He's very excited about being on and serving in this role. And with his one of his majors being in political science, he sees it being a good fit and some good training. So and he's only a freshman, so we may see him be on as an ex-officio like Emily was for a couple of years. Maybe he'll do the same thing.
Yeah, I know it certainly helps to build up that foundation of information and knowledge.
It certainly does. And the other thing that they do is they act as the liaison between ISU student government and city council. They help set up our twice-a-year joint meetings. And then also they can serve as a conduit for communication between the two entities.
Great. As we got into the agenda, we saw an item come back to us that was, I think most people will know of it as Stange Road improvements through Somerset.
Correct. Starting with Northridge Parkway up to Aspen Road, that one segment of area where there's businesses flanking both sides of Stange Road. There's been some conversation, or has been actually a lot of conversation from our community regarding safety concerns, traffic flow, speed, and then the intersections where pedestrians are trying to get across. And so initially, staff had, with the help with a consultant, had come up with an option. We call it Alternative A, where it takes a two-lane, both directions, that is, both northbound and southbound, and they will take the east segment of that road and turn it into a one-lane northbound and southbound. And then we're on the west side where the road currently curved towards the west and then back down into Stange. That's going to be converted into diagonal parking and a one-way traffic flow, and that will allow us to have a nice landscaped median or boulevard in the middle between the two streets, plus adding a four-way stop at both the north and south sides of this area.
Yeah, that area in the middle, often called the Crescent, the council added some direction on that regarding electricity?
Correct. One of the questions is could this be an opportunity for some either small entertainment venue or other activities going on in that area? And so staff was directed by council to add roughing in some electrical service while the project is undergoing to be determined opportunities for power in that center area.
Okay, moving along, we had some neighborhood input and a presentation about some potential development and property at 608 Burnett.
Correct. This is a piece of property. Is actually currently it's a parking lot directly east of Fairway, and the developer has come forward with a proposed 4-story residential rental unit. It has about 38 apartment units in it, and there were several requests from the developer One is, in order to accomplish the 4-story proposed project, there need to be some changes to the zoning, some reduction in parking requirements for the first two. Thirdly, there's a request that he wants to make to the state to get some workforce housing tax credits. And there's a very short deadline or timeline. Deadline looms here early in June. And he needs to have some commitment from council that they would at least provide up to, or at least a minimum of $38,000, $1,000 per unit to be a match. And fourth was he was asking for some financial incentives that would help defray the cost of the project.
So one thing I thought was very interesting in this discussion of this property was how it was viewed as the transition between downtown and Old Town. And that was discussed quite a bit.
That's correct. This is a 1-block north-south dimension by about 4 blocks long area, which is zoned neighborhood commercial. And it is designed and was intended to be a transition from a more concentrated commercial type density, going then transitioning to more single family or multifamily residential areas. And so the conversation surrounding this project was, how can we go ahead and transition both from an aesthetic standpoint as well as a use standpoint? And we were certainly pleased that there were a number of representatives from Old Town that were there. That not necessarily they were representing the Old Town neighborhood association itself, but they were there to offer their opinion. And there was support and recognition of the fact that this would be a great transitional project between the two areas, from our downtown area and also into Old Town.
And I think the discussion, there was a reminder that there are other buildings of height in that area, which I think you have to think about for a minute to remember that there are other apartments there.
That's correct. And that was one thing that was brought up by one of the Old Town residents, was that there was actually a 4-story building that was actually a block farther north that was in the Old Town area. And they were very complementary in how it was designed to aesthetically blend in with the character of the Old Town buildings. And so it was council did support initiating or allowing the applicant to be asking for some text amendments to the code to allow for increased height and also parking, and also supported the match on the workforce housing tax credit. The one thing which is still left up in the air is the type of incentive that might be offered from a financial standpoint from tax abatement. The developer was asking for a certain amount, and it's yet to be determined if council is going to be supportive of that level or if they're going to support it at potentially a lower level.
Okay. And then one of the end items that we talked about was an update on the Ames Animal Shelter.
Yes, and as mentioned in our preview, that's being rebranded and going to be called the Ames Animal Service Center, and it's a broader categorization. Preliminary plan was presented, as well as exterior elevations, exterior perspectives and views, some interior elevations, a budget update, and schedule update. And the design team was present to review the overall concept in general terms, not in detailed terms, but enough so that it gave council an opportunity to understand what a fantastic facility this is going to be, and also the fact that they were able to do some adjustments to the design to bring it in under or at our estimated budget.
And that's just a reminder that that building will move then from Billy Sunday Road out to Dayton and greatly expand space. Really, I think a really welcome improvement for that division.
Not only welcome, but sorely needed for those of us who've been out there to the current animal shelter. They know how starved for space they are, how many animals are housed in very tight quarters, and also providing necessary medical procedures and or just meeting basic needs, and adoption is just really a challenge. So yes, we're looking forward to seeing that project hopefully begin construction in the fall, and sometime next year cut the ribbon on that.
Yeah, that'll be a great one to watch. So this podcast is just one of the ways the City of Ames is working to keep residents informed about what happens at City Council meetings. Thank you, Mayor Haila, for joining us to review the May 12th Ames City Council meeting.
Thanks, Susan.
Our next regular council meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 26th. That's the day after Memorial Day, and we'll be back both before and after that meeting to help you stay informed.
From Agenda to Action is a City of Ames podcast.